guys, it's Bree with Calafia Candle Company. Welcome back to my channel. Sorry I haven't posted in a few weeks. I've just been a little bit busy over here. But I actually just celebrated my 1 year in business anniversary last week on July 30th, which I cannot believe that flew by. So I figured now would be a good time to share with you my sort of tips and advice for just starting a candle business. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over that with you guys while I put on warning labels and the little silicone bumpers on the bottom of my new jars. You might be wondering why I have all of these different colored jars sitting in front of me. And that is because I actually am changing the colors of my jars. So if you know, before I kind of had like the white slash just regular cement all with the gold swirled through, and then also the charcoal gray colors, which I really loved. I loved that look and just the simplicity of it all, but I kind of just wanted some color. So I went ahead and did 5 different colors. So each scent will have its own coordinating color, which will also make a little bit more sense, I think. And then I'm also working on sort of redoing the labels. I think, I'm not finalized it yet, but I think I'm gonna do actually tags, and I can post a video about this when I'm all done. I'm already getting off on a tangent, but I think I'm gonna do tags on like a stretchy string to wrap around the jar. That way it's a lot easier to reuse the jar and you're not left with the sticky residue from the label. So that is the goal with that. But anyway, we'll go ahead and jump into my tips and advice for starting a candle business. So my first tip would be, if you've never made a candle before in your life, to make a candle, or better yet, make a few candles or a dozen candles, just to get the feel for it and see if it's even something you really want to do. See if this is a business you truly want to embark on, or if it's more of a hobby to you, or if it's something that you just find not enjoyable. Because I think a lot of people don't realize how difficult and time consuming and expensive candle making can be. So I think it's a good idea to just make a few candles, get a feel for it, and just see if it's something that you even want to do before you decide to start a full-fledged business. That is what I did, at least. I just made maybe like 5 candles and kind of got the feel of it, you know, the wax, the fragrance oil, all of that. And then I decided it was something I really truly enjoyed, and I did feel passionate about making a business out of it. And so I went ahead and did just that. But that would be my number 1 tip before you start spending all this money on everything and then decide that you don't actually want to go through with it. My second tip would be to research until your brain explodes. And something I really highly recommend doing, and I know I've mentioned this before, is joining candle Facebook groups. Join a couple different Facebook groups and utilize the search function within that group. So when you go to that Facebook page, I think it's usually like in the top right corner, at least on the desktop version, there is a little search bar, and you can type in a word or a phrase or even your whole question. And when you hit enter, it will bring up all of the stuff within that group that matches what you've typed in. So that is what I did. I think I'm part of, like, I don't even know, 5 or 6, maybe more candle groups on Facebook. And when I was first starting out, I was abusing the search function in those groups like crazy. But it was good because I got pretty much every question I had answered without having to ask it in the group. A lot of people do that. They'll type a question before they search for it and they'll get answers like, use the search function, which is true. You should use the search function. And it's really helpful. So I highly recommend doing that. I'll list a couple of the groups that I belong to below, and it's just a great resource. So highly recommend that. My third tip would be to start small. So once you've figured out that this is something that you want to do, I would recommend trying out a couple different waxes, but order small quantities of them before you commit to a large quantity. That way you can try out different waxes and see what you like the best without being stuck with 40 pounds of it. So usually you can get like 5 or 10 pound samples of waxes. So I would definitely do that. And the same goes for fragrance oils. They usually have 1 ounce, or Midwest has 2 ounce samples on their website. So I would order lots of different samples of fragrance oils. That way you can test them out without being stuck with the 16 ounce bottle if you don't like it. And do also keep in mind that fragrance oils a lot of the times can smell different right out of the bottle than they do when they're in a candle or wax melts or whatever you're making. So if you open up a fragrance oil and you smell it and you're like, ugh, that smells gross, still try to make a candle with it. That way you can see how it smells in the candle, because sometimes it can be different. Next is probably the most time-consuming and frustrating part of candle making, and that is the testing phase. Oh my gosh, I feel like if you talk to anyone that makes candles, that we all would agree that that is the most frustrating part of candle making. It just takes a really long time, and it really tests your patience, pun intended. So my advice there would be to do thorough testing and really make sure that you're testing for all kinds of different people that are going to burn your candles. So test for proper burning, like trimming the wick to 1/4 inch before lighting, not burning for more than 4 hours at a time, like everyone should do, but not everyone does that. I for sure did not know before I got into this business that I needed to trim my wick before each lighting and not burn for longer than 4 hours at a time. Sure, it says it on the warning label and we put it on the candle care card, but not everyone is going to read that and not everyone is going to follow those instructions. So I would do the proper burning, but then also do a test for improper burning. Don't trim the wick before you light it. Burn it for longer than 4 hours. Don't sleep with your candle burning, but definitely burn for longer than 4 hours just to see what is going to happen. You want to make sure that your candle is going to be safe regardless. I don't want to only do my testing with trimming the wick each time only to have a customer never trim their wick and then my candle ends up catching on fire in their house. That is not what we want. So definitely do all kinds of testing. And another testing tip is to pour wickless and pour also at half jars. And what I mean by that, I have an example here. I haven't heat gunned over these, so they're a little bit separated from the edge, but I poured these wickless and I poured this one. This is actually 60% full and this is 100% full. So the reason for this is it's just going to save you a lot of time and a lot of supplies doing your testing this way. You can just insert a wick into your jar, and then if it's not working, pull it out, heat gun over the top to smooth it over again, let it cool, and then insert a different wick and start over. So you're really saving a lot of time pouring candles. You're saving money when it comes to wax and the fragrance oil. So that was definitely a lifesaver for me. And pouring at the half jar comes in handy because that typically is the hottest burning point of your candle when it gets to this point. So if you test out a wick at this point, the hottest burning point, that you're typically going to get the wick right. Whereas if you're testing it from the very top and it looks like it's working well, well, when it gets to that halfway point, it might actually end up being too hot and then you just wasted a whole candle. So once you get a wick figured out for the half jar, it most likely will work for the full jar. And so you'll just insert it in there and do the testing again. But sometimes it won't work, so you kind of have to go back to the drawing board. But once you get it figured out wickless, then I would pour a full candle with the wick attached and do full testing on that just to ensure that that is working properly. But that is definitely a time saver and money saver. I would highly recommend doing wick list testing. And the next topic is probably my least favorite, and that is the legality side of business. So your business formation, your business license, insurance, all of that fun stuff, accounting. I would recommend having all of those figured out before you launch. You definitely need to make sure that you have insurance before you launch. I would not sell a candle if I was not covered by insurance. That is very important. I belong to the I can never remember the order of the name. Handcrafted Soap Guild, I think. I'll link it down below. HCSG, I think. They are actually meant for makers, like candle makers, jewelry, all that kind of stuff. So I really do like their insurance options that they have. I know a lot of other people like to use Liberty, I think, Liberty Mutual. But you just want to make sure that you have product liability coverage. That's the big one. Some insurance companies won't cover that for candles. So you definitely want to check that before you decide on an insurance company. And then you want to have your business formation all figured out. Your name is a big one too. Definitely research the name that you have in mind. Make sure nobody else is using it or has it trademarked. I've seen a lot of horror stories about that on the Facebook groups. So definitely look into that, and it will just save you in the long run from a lot of hurdles. And what else? What else did I say? Oh, license or permit. Check that within your city and make sure that you obtain those so that you're doing everything legally. So as far as the accounting goes, I would recommend using something like QuickBooks. That is what I use, the QuickBooks Self-Employed. So I actually have my business checking account linked to that. So all of my purchases go into the QuickBooks automatically, and then I can categorize everything in there and upload pictures of the receipts and all of that stuff. You can also add mileage for your business travels. And it just makes it a lot easier when it comes time for tax season, and it's helpful. So I would recommend doing that, and also getting a business checking account just so you can keep everything separate. It gets a little bit difficult and tricky when you have everything coming out of the same checking account, trying to keep track of personal and business expenses. So getting a separate business checking account is definitely helpful. And if you're not sure what business formation to become, I would recommend just researching online, watching YouTube videos. I started out as a sole proprietorship in the very beginning, and then I became a single member LLC, and then I'm actually in the process of becoming an S Corp. That is just what our accountant suggested would be best for my business, so we're in the process of doing that. So just definitely research that. There's a lot of information online about it, and yeah, that's about it for that part, I think. My next advice is easier said than done, but try not to compare yourself and your business to others. It's really hard to do that these days with just how social media is. You can just log on to Instagram and see someone else post their candles and think that theirs look way better than yours, and then all of a sudden you want to change what you're doing because you think it's going to get you more sales because they're doing well with the way theirs looks. And it's just this mindset that you get stuck in, and sometimes it can really get you down. So I would just really try not to compare yourself to others. It's such a saturated market anyways that, and this kind of opens up another can of worms with like inspiration versus copying, but I honestly think, why would you want to make your products and your business look exactly the same as somebody else's? It's such a saturated market that if you do that, you're just going to blend in. My whole thing is like, I want to set my business apart. I want to stand out. I want somebody to look at my website or my Instagram and think, wow, that's actually like different. That's cool. You know, I haven't seen that before. So I think it definitely is all right to take inspiration from others, and we all do that. I mean, it's hard not to. But when it comes down to just straight out copying somebody and the way that their stuff looks, and if it just looks really, really similar, you're just not doing anyone favors. You're not doing the person you're copying favors, and you're not doing yourself favors, because you're just gonna get lost in this saturated market. So really just try to stay genuine to yourself and your business. This goes for formulas as well and wicks. I know sometimes that's why I get hesitant on sharing the wax that I use and the wicks, because I do definitely get those people that just want to know exactly what I use so they can go run with it and make a candle and think that it's going to work just as well for them as it does for me, when that is not the case, because there are just so many different factors that go into candle making. Like even the weather affects different things. And I've had people message me on Instagram like, I need help. I used your wax combination, I used the wick you used and the fragrance, and it's just not working for me. It's not going to work for everybody. So my best advice is just to try everything for yourself. Try different blends. The only reason I add the SP 487 to my Coconut 83 is to firm up the coconut wax. Coconut 83 is a really great wax on its own, and you definitely don't have to add anything to it. But I just did want to harden it a little bit, just so for shipping purposes, and then for also wicking. But you definitely don't have to add anything, and you definitely don't have to add SP 487. There's lots of different additives that you can add. I mean, I probably tried like, I don't even know, 5 or 6 different blends before I settled on SP 487. So just because that's what I'm doing and what works for me, don't feel like you have to do that to have a good candle. That is not true at all. So just definitely try different things on your own and for yourself to see what you like best. A lot of it just comes down to preference. So don't get lost in what others are doing, and that's just a wormhole you don't want to go down. It's going to get you feeling down about yourself and your business, especially if something doesn't turn out right. Yeah, just stay true to yourself and for what your business is and what it stands for. I almost missed this one. All right, that's perfect because I'm on my last piece of advice, and that is just to have fun. This business can definitely be difficult and draining at times, especially when you're doing it on your own, like myself. But just have fun with it. And I always thought I would enjoy not having a 9-to-5 job, but now I have like a 24/7 job, and I'm always working on stuff, whether it's early in the morning or late at night or on the weekends or holidays. But I don't mind because I find it enjoyable, and that is what matters most. So if you love doing this and you find that you love making candles and you want to make a business out of it, just have fun with it and let your creativity flow. And on that note, I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys found it helpful. And if you have any other questions, leave them down below. Maybe I'll do another Q&A video soon. But that's it. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.